I have a personal assistant at the office who will send certain emails, make certain phone calls, put things in my calendar, prepare books for appointments, admin stuff where
Yep.
that's not where my time is best spent. So and again, I can't take credit for this. A lot of it's trickled down from our team lead, but delegate anything that is below your pay grade.
What what brought you to this particular profession? Because it's not one most young kids don't grow up thinking they want to be a real estate agent. So what brought you to this?
TV scares them all off.
Yeah,
Um,
sure, sure.
yeah, my dad was a builder, so I did
Mm.
spend a lot of time kind of around the industry and in houses. And I actually, at one point, did maybe think architecture, and then realized how much math went into that and schooling, and that it was actually a very hard profession to make decent money in. And decided, well, real estate still kind of feeds that love for homes and working with people.
And has it been everything that you've dreamed and more?
Yes and no. I would say in many ways it's more than what I expected, and I love it and have a lot more passion for it than I think I would have expected for myself in a career. Of course, there's like any job and industry challenges that you don't expect or prepare for. But overall, I think those are pretty minimal and I really enjoy it.
In what ways is it more than you expected?
I really, really love my clients and the appointments I go on and getting to see where people are in different parts of their lives and the different needs that everyone or every property can have, and just really getting to spend time with all of these really incredible different people and seeing how different people live. And it's just a lot of fun. I think I didn't expect to have as much fun with it.
When if you were to highlight one aspect, what is your absolute favorite part of doing what you do?
Listing appointments.
Listing appointments.
Hmm.
Great. Expand on that. Why? What do you love about listing appointments?
We get a decent amount of time together in that meeting. It's not like when you're showing a buyer a house, you're running through the house, they're trying to focus on the home, and you're trying to let them do that, and you're jumping around from house to house, and there's only, so much time to really talk and connect. On listing
Mm.
appointments, I'm getting to see their home, how they live, their dreams and plans, and then sit down and really talk with them and figure out what I can do to help them.
So with these listing appointments, is there anything particular that you think you might do differently or unique to your process? If you don't mind, maybe kind of walk us through your process. What is it like? What's the pregame? What's the meeting? What's the post? How do you go through a listing appointment?
Yeah, so it always starts with a phone call where I gather some preliminary information so that I can do research before I come. I'm not showing up empty handed, seeing the house, and then saying, let me go back to the drawing board and get you information. I'm coming prepared with it. So it's a lot of questions about timing. Do they need to sell to buy? Do they already have their next home identified, or will they need time to identify that next home? What upgrades have they made to their house that could impact the value, or if there's something else like a busy road that they back to that could impact the value? Have they, replaced the HVAC or the roof? Things of that nature, how much they owe on it, so we can look at a net sheet and what their walk away will be. Really making sure that I have a pretty good picture of what they're looking to accomplish before I even walk through that door. So then we can spend that meeting discussing strategy and really getting down to what we need to do to accomplish those goals. So then once I show up, I tour the home with them because there's a big difference between being told something over the phone and actually seeing it in person. And then we sit down and we go through a market analysis for pricing. And again, talk about those other elements of the negotiations and process that they might need figured out.
And then what would you say your success rate is on something like that?
Um, It varies a little because some agents won't go on appointments if they don't think that the person's gonna sell pretty soon, that they won't get something signed in the near future, where I call those appointments consultations. I still wanna build that relationship, get them the information they're looking for to make informed decisions. So obviously that brings down closing rate a little bit because they might be a year out, but I still wanna go meet with them and have that conversation. So I'd say I'm probably around a 70% conversion rate right now. If you take out the consultations, it's probably closer to 75 or 80.
You talk about building those relationships. What are some of the things that you like to do to not only build them, initiate them certainly, but build them and cultivate them over time?
Yeah, obviously keeping them updated if a neighbor's home comes on the market or something that's comparable that they should know about has listed, closed, whatever that might be. If there's something happening in the market that might impact their timing or plans or goals that I think they should get ahead of, take advantage of, maybe wait on, informing them of those things that are happening and then just checking in. Things change over time. And I had somebody called yesterday where he was like, "Your timing is so funny. My tenant's lease is coming up, and I was just thinking, should I lease it again or sell? So let's talk about it." He was like, "I just had that thought this morning, and you called me." So you never know what's going to happen in that kind of timing. And I really just take a very holistic, large approach to it. There's not one size fits all. It's not all just about price. For some people, it is, and that's great. But for some people, they need their home sold yesterday, and that's a very different strategy.
Are you happy with where you are right now in your business?
I am. I mean, of course, there's always room for improvement. I'm always working on my skills still and seeing where I can learn and be better for my clients, my team, myself. Um, but for the most part, yes, I'm very happy with where I'm at.
Without getting into details, because I don't think it's fair for me to have you list all the things that you think are areas for improvement. But I'm just curious, what is the process you go through for identifying those things? And are you talking with colleagues? Certainly, you're doing some self audits through this, but how do you stay on top of that?
I have a coach that I meet with once a week who holds me accountable for tracking my numbers, seeing if there's something kind of a little off, what we need to do to get it back on track. So she's a really big part of that. Um, I got a business partner. We'll sit there and make calls together and role play together so we can give each other feedback on where we can improve in those conversations. Or if we're not entirely sure about a price about a home or some type of recommendation we're needing to give, we'll bounce it off of each other and talk it through because everyone has a different opinion. So, really trying to stay coachable and open minded and not just think, oh, I'm the best. I don't need to do anything because that's definitely not true.
Well, so maintaining this idea of coachability, define that
Mhm.
for me. What does that mean to be coachable for you?
I can get a little stubborn when I'm being called out on something I've done wrong. I think a
I
lot of
think that's
us can.
reasonable. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You wanna dig your heels in initially and be like, "No, I'm right, you don't know." And I have to walk myself off that ledge and be like, "No, no, you need to come into this with an open mind, take the blinders off, forget everything you've known, and just listen, because there's something to be heard there. Even if I'm not taking all of it, there is something I can take from it. They're saying it for a reason."
And what was that process like for you, kind of coming to that level of self-awareness? Is that something that you've been privy to your whole life, or has that been an evolution for you of sorts?
Oh gosh, I think that it's a little bit of an evolution. I always try to be very aware of myself and have my entire life of owning my shit, so to speak. Sorry for the language, but trying to not deflect or blame other people or always look at my part in something. And um, sometimes I do a better job of that than other times. And I definitely, when I'm in that reaction mode, need a moment to be in that mode. I can't like just push myself right through it. I'll call my friend or my husband and vent real quick, and then I'll be like, "All right, got that out of my system. Now I can let that go and get to actually making this all work."
Talk to me a little bit about you have a partnership right now. What is the basic structure? How do you guys delegate? How does that work? working as a would you classify it as a team or just a partnership? How would you classify it?
Yeah, so I do have a team. So our team lead started this team about 40 years ago. And she is now pretty focused on the business side of things. And I'm really focused on the listing operation side of things. And then we have a business manager who helps with more of the personnel and tools that we use and things like that. So it's an interesting team setup for real estate. It's not like a lot of other teams where we have people specializing in parts of the process and a little bit more admin probably than a lot of teams where they're more agent heavy, I think. So that's kind of the quick little snippet of how our team operates.
And so is it just the 2 of you then?
Uh,
In terms of agents, or how many agents are on the team?
so all of our staff actually, except for 2 people, are licensed as well. So if you actually look at licenses, we have a lot, but actual practicing agents out doing business are 5 of us that are active.
So when you were talking earlier, you were talking about, kind of role playing with your partner. What does that look like?
Yeah, yeah, we actually all work very closely together and work frequently together. So I was talking about Karen, our team lead, but I do role play with some of the other agents on the team as well. And I have a few agents in other parts of the country that I role play with twice a week.
Right. So this is like a group that gets together. And when you're going through that, how does that work? Do you say, all right, look, I want to talk about this particular element of something, or do you have
Yeah.
some prompts that you go through? If you don't mind, like walk us through what that experience looks like.
Yeah, if we had an appointment that didn't go well and we wanted to figure out where we might have gone wrong, how we could have handled it differently, we might role play that. What would you have said in this situation? um, or what would you have done in this particular instance? Sometimes it's just, hey, I am going to be inviting people to my party and I want to talk about what that looks like. So there's many different things you can role play and discuss in those conversations, but it's really just helping each other with market knowledge skills and what to say in what instances.
One of the biggest lies about real estate is that it's a flexible schedule. And I think the ruse there is that it is indeed a flexible schedule. It's just that all the flexibility is decided by your clients. It is not your own.
You're being flexible, your
Right.
schedule isn't being flexible.
Right. How have you been able to adapt to that? And how have you been able to manage that with the volume that you're doing, in addition to certainly a personal life and the other things that you want to get out of your life?
Am I managing it? Um,
Well, that's the trick too. That's the lie is anybody ever really managing it? I think, the biggest
yeah.
ruse outside of that lie is that balance exists. It's
Yes. I 100% agree with that, and I look at it as the balance is knowing that sometimes your family is gonna have to take the priority, and you might have to sacrifice some at work, and sometimes work is gonna have to take the priority, and you're gonna have to sacrifice some in your home personal life. It's understanding that those are gonna ebb and flow, and it's not forever, but sometimes you do have to make those tough decisions on what is the priority in that moment. And it can be very hard to say no to something that could be income for your family because it's also commission based. You don't make money if you don't work. But at the same time, you got to remember that you got to have fun. You got to have these relationships built and fortified, or what are you working for? So I try to show up for every single one of my son's games and practices that I can. Practices I'm a little less concerned about being present for, but I try and be there when I can, just so he sees that support and knows I'm involved in a part of it. Um, I make sure that my husband and I get date nights and that if there's something important to him, I'm there for that. He's a big fan of the Avalanche, so we try and go to Avalanche games every season together and things like that. And then, of course, trying to find time for myself. that's the one that typically is the easiest one to drop off and forget and kind of not take care of.
Well, sure. I think that's a very unfortunately, to paint with a broad brush here, that's a very typical maternal mentality, right? Is taking care of the people around you and not necessarily yourself. So with that in mind, how do you take care of yourself? How do you find the time to make sure that you have the space, as it were, to to continue doing what you're doing at the level you're doing it?
So I protect Sundays as a family day where I might get on a phone call or send an email, but I'm not going on appointments. I'm not going into the office. That's our day as a family. But then Mondays are protected as my day. So I still don't go on appointments or go into the office, and my family's not home. So that's my day to take care of myself, reset, read a book if I want to, get things done, whatever that is that I need. Mondays are like my sacred day. Um, and I try to be very, very protective of that. I try to get massages quite often. I would be lying if I said I was being good about working out right now. That's something I'm trying to bring back into the schedule because that got sacrificed. um, and yeah, just it's a constant check-in. It'll be good for a while, it'll drop off, and then my body will just honestly remind me, like, "Hey, you got to take care of me. This kind of sucks right now."
Right. And so you've got a we've done this thing where we schedule Mondays pretty frequently. We've got another one
Mhm.
coming up. What are you looking forward to in this next Monday?
Um, I didn't actually properly protect my last
Okay,
Monday,
all right.
so
Yeah, we're getting down to it. Okay, I understand.
I'm looking forward to protecting it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think I do have a massage scheduled this coming Monday, so I'm very much looking forward to that.
That's great. And when you do your workouts, what are you doing?
I am actually gonna be hiring a, personal trainer just for the accountability part of it since I've been struggling to show up. So that's something I'm bringing into the schedule.
So you're bringing in a personal trainer. You have a business coach. I'm getting the sense from you that one of your nah, struggle isn't the right words, but I think understanding where we are strong and understanding where there are opportunities for growth is super important. And it sounds to me that, with the coaching or even with the personal training, what you've identified is having a source of accountability that might be external, that is to say, outside of the business, outside of your personal life, is important to you. When did you identify that?
I can't take full credit for that. Our team lead has been with the coaching program we're a part of her whole career. So when I joined the team, it was you should join this program.
Right.
So I was kind of indoctrinated into it, but also really believe in the philosophy because it is easy to get complacent and not see those holes that you might have. And I think it is so important to have somebody helping you to identify them and grow. And I also really believe in delegating. I'm not a tax specialist. I'm going to hire someone to help me with my taxes. I'm not a workout enthusiast who already has this strict like plan in place. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. So having someone figure that out for me makes a really big difference. So I really believe in leaning into other people's strengths and letting those feed my life and help me lean into mine.
There's we so maybe we're reframing this a little bit as opposed to, external accountability and more into the sense of, again, I'm probably not using the best term here, but almost outsourcing some elements of things, right? Which is fair. I think you are a very busy person. You've got a lot going on. It's not like taxes that, I've noticed they don't like it when you don't pay. So it's a good thing to keep doing.
Just a little
The,
bit.
the, so with that, what are some other things, maybe functional things that you have noticed either in the business or in a personal setting where you're like, look, this actually isn't worth my time. It needs to get done. It's important, but me spending time on this doesn't grow my business or doesn't grow my mental health. So what are some other things that you might have identified?
So my house, I don't take care of my house. It is entirely hired out down to the laundry.
Sure.
If you see me doing laundry, I don't know what happened.
Right.
Yeah, they will even meal prep for me. I do enjoy cooking. That's like a de-stress thing for me, but again, it depends on the day, my energy left at the end of the day, so it's nice to have it prepped for those days where I don't wanna put the effort into that. I have a personal assistant at the office who will send certain emails, make certain phone calls, put things in my calendar, prepare books for appointments, admin stuff where that's not where my time is best spent. So and again, I can't take credit for this. A lot of it's trickled down from our team lead, but delegate anything that is below your pay grade.
What would you say is the one thing that if you had to hang your hat on it, this is the one thing I do really well. I might this is your go-to superpower.
Problem solving and listening. I really, really like solving a problem, and I am very good at getting creative and making things work where other people probably would have given up or just not known what to do.
Can you give us an example of like something maybe recent that happened that falls under that category?
We had a listing where somebody wrote an offer on it, and it was conditional on the sale of their home, which can be a risk for the seller to take their home off of the market for a conditional sale contract. But they also didn't want to lose the buyer in this market. And so I ended up suggesting we negotiate in a first right of refusal where we can keep the property marketed as active.
Mm.
And if we receive a acceptable competing offer, they have 48 hours to remove their conditional sale or terminate so we can move forward with this other offer. So we're not having to change the status in the MLS. No one technically knows we're under contract. You do have to disclose it in the broker remarks, but we're able to keep showings coming in and try and get a stronger offer while we're also not losing this buyer and we're starting the process with them. And we were able to close with that conditional sale buyer, but we had that protection in place. So that's just one kind of thought that comes to mind offhand.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Changing, and this is in the same vein, but I'm curious. What is, and this can be personal, this can be professional. You get to choose. What is something that you're really, really proud of that nobody gets to see?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm actually a very good artist and writer. I love writing and doing art, and I wouldn't say nobody gets to see it, but that's something I don't share with many people or put on display. I'm not out in art shows or anything like that.
What is it about that expression? Either, and when you say art, what medium are we using here?
Uh, Lots of different ones. I like to paint with acrylic. I like to draw with oil pastel or just sketch. Um, Sometimes it's just getting artsy with how I decorate my cake. And then writing. I consider that a form of art too.
Of course, and
And I do fiction.
you do fiction.
Hmm.
You do. Is there a particular genre?
I am working on a kind of psychological murder mystery.
Great. I love all of this. What is it about that particularly that makes you proud?
It can be very, very easy to wanna stop and feel like you're gonna mess it up if you keep going. You get to a point where you really like it, it's not done, but you're so worried you're gonna ruin it if you keep going. And it can be hard sometimes to push through that or know where to take it next. So it always makes me proud when I do push through that and I am really happy with the end result, or even if I don't love the end result, at least I finished it. I had that completed project. So and it just really gets my mind working, and I do love a lot of what I create. So yeah,
Do you get to do this outside of Monday?
sometimes I get on these
Okay,
rolls where
yeah.
I'm
So
feeling really creative, and I'll sit there until like 10 o'clock at night after work and work on it
right.
or paint.
Have you created
But
do you have a space that you go to for this type of stuff that's unique to this, or is this just wherever I
mm,
am, I'm gonna bust out my acrylics?
yeah, no, I have like a little nook in my bedroom where I can like sit and read and write. So that's a little bit more designated with painting. I just set up an easel in my living room. So that way I'm still with the family, like they're in the area around me, we can talk, but I'm doing my thing.
So, Madison, I really do appreciate you taking the time to do this. But before we go away, as it
Mhm.
were, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Is there anything that's on your mind that's kind of pressing?
Yeah, your question about what am I proud of? One other thing that came to mind, which I'm proud to be a part of. It's not mine, and I just joined recently, but I'm on the board of a local nonprofit called Blue Sky Bridge, which is focused on violence against children and helping with education, helping them to understand it, talk about it, prevent it, intervention, and therapy afterwards, so treatment, which hard, heavy subject, but so, so important. And, they're really trying to help. Of course, the end goal would be to just get rid of it entirely, but prevent as many instances as they can and help people recover if it has happened to them. So it's a really important cause to me, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And of course, if anybody else wants to be a part of it, would love to talk with them about it.
And what brought you to what's it like being on a board? I've done a few, and I'm just curious your experience. What is the board like for you?
Yeah, this is my first time being on a board, so it's definitely a learning process right now. But it's just amazing to see how they support the nonprofit and make it possible for the people who are really doing the work to focus on that and making a difference and bringing in funds for that nonprofit and really making sure on an operational level that it can succeed.
That's great. Well, that's wonderful. Well, once again, Madison, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing some of this of your processes and just certainly the way that you go about business is really, really helpful. And I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.